No
It's
efforts.
kind of like a race between the four horsemen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which one's going to kill us first?
Which one's going to get to us? Whoa.
Welcome to the apocalypse, everybody. We're all gonna die tonight. But no,
Uh-oh.
it's just been crazy. Like the news, like unfortunately where I work, I have to see all that stuff, and every day is just like outdoes the next day is what it seems like when it comes to war and apocalypse and everything. But you're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Check out Dead Sky Publishing. They have great Weird West horror books. The Wild West, throw in some zombies and some vampires and lycanthropes, and you're in the Wild West, baby. That's deadskypublishing.com. We got Wham here with us tonight.
Heidi. Hi.
We got Allison Jornlin here with us tonight.
Hi, everybody.
Great to have you here. Well, I know the Shark Tank thing happened, and my first thought was that, like, those people with paranormal stuff, wow, I don't know how that's going to go. Like, I don't watch that show a lot, but I've seen it a few times, and they do seem like they're... So, was it like that?
Well, it is like a Shark Tank in that you just get thrown into it, and they, one is asking a question, and then you're trying to answer their question, and then somebody else goes off, and so they just don't know how to take turns, is what it is. But so that's what makes it like a Shark Tank in my opinion, is because you don't have like a coherent conversation with anyone. It's basically hard to get in a word and edgewise between all their questions. So I was really happy though that they invited us to come on. It wasn't something that we had ever considered, having outside investors, but they wanted to do a special Halloween show, and so they reached out to us. And just like in Ghostbusters, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. When someone asks you to be on Shark Tank, you say yes. So that's what we did.
Was it nerve-wracking for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really know what to expect. I mean, we had our pitch down, and that was fun to do. But as you might have guessed, the Sharks didn't understand our business. They had never considered haunted history tourism as a potential for making money. They just don't realize that there's value there. So,
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely fun to do.
What was value that? And interest. I mean, there's interest there. That's why you're able to make money on it, Yeah,
and I didn't really get to go into the history of it. Now, Richard Crowe wasn't the first. There was a woman, and I forget her name, that started haunted history tourism in the United States in 1970. But Richard Crowe was the first one that we knew of coming up in Wisconsin. We know of Richard Crowe because he started his Chicago ghost tours in 1973. And so for us, that was our inspiration as kids, because although we were in a suburb of Milwaukee, my mom, our mom, really loved listening to the radio stations in Chicago a lot, and every Halloween WGN would have Richard Crowe on, spinning his tales of haunted Chicagoland. And then my mom would gather me and my little brother around the radio. And I know this sounds like we're from the 30s or from the 40s, but I assure you, this happened during the 80s. She'd gather us around the radio to listen to Richard Crowe, and I think it really just got into our consciousness. And then when I became a teacher in 2006, I had my summers off. So I'm like, okay, this is my opportunity to start a haunted history tour in my home city of Milwaukee, because, it takes time to research the history and to get enough ghost stories for a walking tour that's only like a 1 mile radius, because you can't make people walk that long and still like you. So it took some doing, but I had the time to do it after I became a teacher. And then that's how I started the Milwaukee Tours in 2008. And then I got my brother into it a couple years later. I think it was 2010. And I'm like, dude, bro, you've got to do a haunted history tour of Madison, our state capital. And then I helped him get started. And then I just focused on my educational career. And then he really took off with it. And he started tours in St. Paul and Minneapolis, where he lived while his wife was going to law school. And he's the one that really built American Ghost Walks into the successful business that it is, so that we could both be full-time weirdos. And that's what we're doing today.
That's cool. And how was this season? Was it hectic? How was it this time around for
Well,
October?
it's was very, very busy, but that's okay. That's our peak season. And we run tours in our northerly destinations, from May until first week of November, till it gets too cold to go out. But we do have some warm weather destinations. For instance, we have a tour in Hilo on the Big Island of Hawaii, and we also have one in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And so those go on all year. Certainly, we need to do some more development in areas that don't have tours yet, but are warm weather destinations that'll really um, help the business. But yeah, I mean, it's really busy from May to the beginning of October, or I mean to the beginning of November. And I've been working mostly in Maine. We acquired a tour company from the founder of Red Cloak Tours in Maine, and she wanted to retire, so we bought her company. And then she had 12 tours across Maine. So I've mainly been working on resurrecting those tours. And so I brought a couple of tours online that in Maine that we hadn't had. So that's what I spent my time doing this summer is researching and writing. We get when we acquire a tour company, we get like a template of what we want to do, but our stories really have to be vetted, and I have to have a lot of supporting documentation for me to put it on the tour. So there's always, even when we acquire pre-existing tours, there's always a lot of work in terms of historical research that I need to do to back up those stories. And I provide binders to the tour guides, so that the tour guides can give the guests a little glimpse into where we get our stories. And uh, they're not going to see all the sources, but they get a peek at some of the more good looking sources, I guess you would say. Some of those old newspaper headlines and illustrations, and sometimes even photos, are very dramatic and fun to be able to share with guests, so that they see that we're not making things up. I Since I started the tours here in Milwaukee in 2008, a lot of other companies have come along to run haunted history tours in the area. And um and that's great, because that's really why I started a haunted history tour here in Milwaukee, because I wanted there to be that kind of tourism here, like there was in Chicago and New Orleans. I thought, well, we've got to have these kind of interesting historical hauntings, and we do. So I wanted to bring that to Milwaukee's consciousness. And then when I did that, then there were other companies that saw, oh, there's money in this. And so there are other companies now in Milwaukee that offer haunted history tours, which I love to go on because I love to see what other people come up with, and it's fun not having to lead a tour yourself or be in any way involved. Just be a fangirl again. So I love doing that, but you know, in taking some of the tours, I was like, well, where did that story come from? And is it really true? And how are you gonna know? You're just gonna have to take the take the tour guide's word for it, unless you get to see. No, we are using lots of sources, archival sources. We're interviewing people, uh, so there's a lot that is involved in making what we find is a quality tour of to represent American Ghost Walks.
And do you go and scout out the locations? Like you have to go to the locations and scout them out. And is there? I mean, I'm sure there's a process like with the people in charge, like the city and stuff like that. I mean, you got to go through a lot, don't you?
Yeah, well, definitely, going to the location is important because if you're going to interview people from the different locations, it's best if you're on the scene with them. And also, from my past exploits, that I really like to get my boots on the ground. That's the only way to do investigation, as far as I'm concerned. You got to be there. So yeah, I travel to a lot of locations, uh, just because I got to put myself in the shoes of the guest and make sure everything is walkable, uh, and like I said, even with tours that are already established, that we buy the intellectual property, there's still things you have to do. There's still updates you have to make. There's no turnkey solution yet that I've found.
Yeah, I bet it. I bet that can be something. Does anybody ever go? We don't want no ghost tours in our town, Missy, or
Well,
anything like
not
that.
not too often. I mean, certainly that was the reaction in Milwaukee when I started in 2008. We're not that far from Chicago, so
Yeah,
it shouldn't have been such a difficult prospect for people to get their head around. But it really is, if they've never gone on a haunted history tour, if they're not well traveled, if they, haven't been to New Orleans, they haven't been to Chicago, they don't really realize the demand for this type of tourism. And I think it's really that people want the history, but they also want the other aspects of humanity, which are really important. Spirituality should not be downplayed, and haunted
yeah,
history is a part of the local spirituality. It reflects local spiritual beliefs.
and I had my question in my head, and then it tried to float away somewhere. But that happens. Oh, at some of these locations that you scout out, has anything paranormal ever happened? Like have you had any type experiences to make you go, "Oh, okay, this place is probably
Oh,
haunted."
well, I gotta say that unfortunately, I am not a medium. So I don't have paranormal experiences very often. I have had a few, which really has helped me put things in perspective. But yeah, I mean, usually it's all about making sure journalistically you're talking to a witness and you're getting their account straight. It's also about doing the historical research and then just the logistics of it all, just walking around the place. Yeah, as far as whether I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, I have had some, but they don't really come when they're bidden. They come at strange times
Yeah,
when you're least
they're
expecting.
always unexpected and rather inconvenient. That
Yes.
that's yeah, That's
and
true.
fleeting and
And
fleeting.
fleeting.
So
Fleeting.
yeah, I'll tell you about some of my personal experiences in just a second, but I just wanted to address what you were saying, Jeffrey, about, has anybody ever said, well, we don't want no haunted history tours? Well, kind of, because like I said, in Milwaukee, people were very resistant to the idea of even telling their ghost stories, and there are a lot of places around town here in Milwaukee that still are like, okay, tell the docents or the volunteers at these historic places, they say, okay, you can talk about the ghost stories here, but don't talk about them outside of here. They're very concerned about ghost stories. So that way, when I get a ghost story from someone in a contentious kind of environment like that, I feel like I really got something, because there are people out there actively trying to conceal and to trying to hide their ghost stories in Milwaukee. Um, Now, when businesses, we have one business here in Milwaukee that really recognizes that how good ghosts are for business. And so that becomes a problem then. It's kind of a catch-22 situation where it's almost better when people are negative towards ghosts, because then when you get a story, you really feel like you got something because you had to pull it out of them. It's like pulling teeth. But then when somebody starts to realize, oh, ghosts are good for business, oh no. Now ghosts are coming out of every orifice. You got demons in the basement. Oh man. Uh,
That's how it is here in Florida, I think, with some of these places, like in the little city, like that place is haunted, that place is haunted. Yeah,
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 you can't believe anything they say, because you know that they're just trumping it up because it's good for business. So, with that in mind, though, there was another place like that in Baraboo, which is a couple hours from Milwaukee. So, anyway, I was in Baraboo for a presentation. They asked me, the old Baraboo Inn, as it was called, the owner there knew that ghosts were good for business. He was a really nice guy. God rest his soul. But I knew that he was leaning into it. So that's why he asked me to come speak there, and that was great. But also, I thought, if any place is haunted, it's not this place. Really, that's what I thought. I'm like, it's great you want me to come and talk for 2 hours about Wisconsin hauntings. Awesome. But I didn't think that that place was haunted. I was going into it with this negative impression. And so my brother and I actually went there together. I was like, you should come along, and your band should play, and we should do a podcast. And we had a whole night of activities after my presentation. So, anyway, my presentation was in this smaller bar area, um, which was on the far side of the main bar and restaurant area. And so after I finished giving my talk, everybody was still in that room, like talking to each other. And I just excused myself and went to the other side where the big dining room is and the big long bar is. And to the side of the big long bar, we had a a table that we had set up for the podcast. And then I was just stowing my gear, my laptop bag, under this table. And I stood up, and across the room, I saw an orb. Okay, so this is irritating to me, because when you start a haunted history tour, you know that people are coming to you with their photographs, like for years, saying, hey, look what I caught. And you never know quite what to do. I mean, if somebody thought it was their grandma, I just was like, well, just let them think that. That makes them happy. That's great.
Right.
But if it was more of an investigative type person, I would say, well, we have to realize all the things it could be. It could be cigarette smoke. It could be moisture. It could be dust. All these things that the infrared sensor is picking up on the camera and the lens is making look bigger than it is. So I was explaining all that to them very often. And then, of course, when I have my paranormal experience, it's an orb. But the difference is I saw it with my eyes. So I'm looking at the back wall of this bar restaurant and I see this thing hanging in the air. It looks like about the size of a ping pong ball and it is kind of yellowish white. And so I see it coming at me, but it's really just hanging there for a second there. And then it speeds up. So I had a second to look at it and think to myself, what is that thing? And then it sped up and it flew at my head. And it zoomed past the side of my head. And what it made me do is flinch. So for me, that was like, wow, I'm really having a moment here that's authentic because I'm having this, involuntary reaction of flinching, as if, if somebody whipped a ball at your head, you'd flinch. So that's what was happening. That's what I was uh, experiencing. And then, of course, I looked around really quick and it was nowhere to be found. And then with that experience came the realization that, wow, I really am having to process this. Like, I didn't just run to the other side of the room and say, "Hey, everybody, I saw an orb. Oh my gosh, it's all real." I didn't do any of that. I was just quiet about it the whole night, and then through the whole next day, and then Monday after I got done teaching school, I called my brother and I said, "Oh, by the way, something did happen," and that was it was a shock to me that somebody like me who's all about this, wanting this kind of experience, that it happens and it takes a while to process it. Just imagine what this is like for people who want to deny it, like it could be so easy to forget or just bury because it does not match up with what you're used to. And so that gave me this idea that perhaps weird things like this are happening to people all the time, but you're never going to get them to tell you about it because they can't even handle it themselves. And they've probably sublimated it, probably forgotten all about it. And then a year later, I was at the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference that we have every year here in Milwaukee, and American Ghost Walks has sponsored it for the last few years. And so we were having a panel about, it was called Haunted Road Trip, and we had businesses that were haunted and outside of Milwaukee, but would make a great day trip. And so then we went. I went to watch it. I wasn't part of the panel, and somebody who was from Old Baraboo Inn said that the owner's girlfriend was often complaining when she came into the main bar area of being dive bombed by orbs. And I was like, wow, that's not how I described what happened, but that sure sounds like what happened to me. So that was great confirmation because I didn't know about that claim until that very moment. And there were so many claims about this place that that wasn't even on my radar. And so it amazed me that it happened. And it's a learning experience about what it's like to be an experiencer when something like that happens to you. And then I remember I have this paranormal team that I work with a lot, and I told them we were at some event together, and I told them, a couple of them about what happened, and then they said, well, Allison, was it a bug? And it was important that they cover all the bases, but then I felt like how it must feel to be a witness and then to be questioned like that. And I said to them, do you know me? How many investigations have we been on? And am I running around saying that I'm having experiences every 5 minutes? No. I mean, I can count on one hand probably the number of experiences I've had. And so it was a really good learning experience for me.
Definitely, definitely. I had a shaman, Zach Berry, tell me that the dead can travel as spears of light. So it's always fascinating to think what these things are. Like, is it dead people traveling in balls of light? I don't know, but it's definitely weird for
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know what it is. And now to say it's a ghost, I mean, I can't do that. I can't say that my friend was a ghost because I don't even know what ghosts are. But I can tell you that was not right. I can tell you that was not within the realm of normal experience.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, my experience is that, I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've had a variety of experiences, not as many as Jeffrey, but it mine are sort of, I've had a little bit of everything,
Mm-hmm.
just in really unexpected ways. But the way it always happens with me is that it's always unexpected. It's not when I'm looking for it.
No, yeah.
And it scares the crap out of me. It's like you'd think that after all this time doing all this research, you know, writing a dissertation, interviewing over 1,000 people over the course of my life about various experiences, especially UFO experiences,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that you think that you just sort of take it in hand, but it's like no, actually, when it really happens, it just because it's so unexpected, and it
Yeah.
and, it, and it's always for me at least it's always something that just doesn't quite fit into like whatever I've expected it to be at that moment,
Right.
and so there's something just really freaky and scary about it. And and I'm just like everybody else. I don't tell very many people about my experiences. I sit in this show and I listen to people talk about theirs, and Jeffrey talks about his all the time. And occasionally I'll share an experience of mine, but I just don't really, because they're too weird to me.
Right. It,
You
it's
know?
um it's surprising. That's what I have to say about it is my reaction, just like you said, your reaction surprises you. You're like, there's just it's so weighted, um, loaded with things, with expectations. And, I was just, like I said, when something really does happen, it's really quick. I mean, for me, it has been
It's real
anyway.
simple. Yeah.
And, but, to say it didn't happen just because it was quick is disingenuous, or, I can't say that it was part of normal experience because it really was not. And you can tell that by my reactions to it. And I'm just really surprised by my reactions to it. You never know how you're going to react, if you're going to be scared, if you're going and I can't tell you. I mean, I wasn't scared by that, but I didn't know what to do with it is the thing. Um,
Mhm.
I didn't think it just wasn't the time to tell anybody, even though my brother was right there and I saw him minutes later. It just, I don't know why I didn't tell him right away, but I needed processing time. And then also, I think there's more, um, there's some lower hanging fruit there about, like, oh, I didn't think that orbs were really real in a sense. I mean, I left the door open for that, but then to see one like that and have one buzz your head like that, and it's important to say I didn't feel it and I didn't hear it. I mean, I saw it coming at my head, but um, other than that, I didn't have any other senses associated with it. Uh, but yeah, what do you do with that experience? And then the complicating factors of, oh, it's an orb. Now I got to tell people I saw an orb, and they're gonna think I mean on a photograph or something.
Oh, she's another orb looker. See her.
Yes, and they're gonna discount me before I get another word out. And then also the idea that the old Baraboo Inn, this place where I was like, oh, come on, people, with all your claims, it's ridiculous. Um, the fact that I had an experience in that place was like, oh, it's just like the universe kicking you in the pants. The universe is saying, oh, you think you know so much, Allison. You know nothing. And
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Yeah.
So it can take, just a few seconds, but it's a deep enough experience that you have all these things attached to it. So yeah, I mean, but again, the great thing that I learned from it is that there could be millions of people every day having paranormal experiences, but because they're programmed not to recognize it, uh, we might never ever know about those experiences because one, these people don't want to experience it. Two, it's just so foreign from what the regular 24/7 daily life, and it's not, there's nothing about it that is going to help you pay your mortgage. You know what I mean? It's just, there's nothing, and there's nobody you can really tell, like, officially, or it's a sticky wicket. It's really hard to be able to find people that you can confide it in. It's just too difficult of an experience. So I think a lot of people have had experiences, but they've probably entirely forgotten about them. And oh, okay, so I got to tell you, okay, this is an example. Now, it is not paranormal. Let me just put that out there. Um, but it demonstrates what I'm talking about. Okay, so my husband is really into photography, and there was this old shut down drive-in theater where the doors were open so he could get into the screen and take pictures of the building. The screen is actually a building unto itself. So he was at this old drive-in theater one day taking his architectural photos, and I was off at some kind of female-only event. It was like a wedding or baby shower or something. Ugh. So I had to go and do all the dumb games and stuff like that. Sorry, relatives. But anyway, I hate those. So he's off, trotting around taking pictures, and I'm off at this shower, and then so he's taking pictures inside the screen building, and not paying attention to anything, and then he walks out one of the doors, and as he does that, he's like, uh-oh, what are all these people doing here? There were people all over with these dark robes, hooded robes, and they were all around, and one of them like started to notice him, and then it looked like they were participating in some ritual where a bunch of them were surrounding an old car, and they had these baseball bats, and they were beating the car, uh you know and as you do, I guess, as the Satanists do. I don't really know, but anyway,
That's kind of weird.
yeah, so he saw that, and then one of the people noticed him and started to approach, and then he's like, I gotta get out of here. And then so there's another door out the other side of the screen, so he jumps in the car and he just like rips out of there. And then as he's going out, there's another car coming in with creepy looking people with robes on, and they're like, like looking at him, like watching him go by. And okay, so that was really frightening to him. And then when he picks me up from the shower, I mean, this is like the biggest news that had ever occurred to us at that point. Okay, he tells me this, and I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, I was freaked out of, I don't, what was happening there? And I'm like, I don't know. And then we get home, it's a Sunday night, and I'm like, well, almost time to go to bed. We better put that laundry in. Got to get up early to go to work. And that was it. We didn't follow up on it. I mean, who do you call? But maybe we could have called the police or something. But we didn't. We didn't do anything. We just forgot about it completely. You know, we
And
talked about
it. And you don't know what that was?
Yeah, we forgot about it completely. So that this is just I'm making a demonstration here of how people could be having extraordinary experiences. They're the biggest news ever, and you just have your day-to-day life that you got to get ready for. And so I don't know where it goes, but for us, it just blinked out of existence that had ever happened. Okay, so then a few years later, some Saturday night, we're watching a movie on cable, and I'm like asleep on the floor practically. And Scott's watching this movie, my husband Scott, and then all of a sudden he stands up and he goes, "Oh my God, oh my God!" And so I was just like jump up, like, what happened? And he said, "There it is." That's what I saw. It was there was a movie which was very popular when it first came out called American Movie, and it was about a Milwaukee filmmaker who was making a film. I know this isn't the right way to pronounce it, but he calls it Coven. He was making a film called Coven about some ritual practitioners, and it was the movie set that my husband stumbled into. And so my point is, okay, that's not paranormal. Let's just take that out of the equation. But it's something that was extraordinary that happened to us that was weird enough that we didn't know what to do with it. So we forgot about it completely until it came back to us in this movie. And I'm just wondering how many people out there have these extraordinary experiences, and I'd sure like to hear from them. So AmericanGhostWalks.com, call the number. Anna will pick up and tell her you want to talk to me, Allison. Are experiencing that same kind of memory blackout just because they don't know what to do with an experience that's extraordinary.
Yes.
What do you guys think?
No, I think that's, yeah. I mean, because I live in a place where people have experiences all the time. I mean, that's what I wrote my book about. And they have so many experiences, especially not only in certain locations, but over time, over a temporal period that they almost come to expect them,
Mm-hmm.
and but that doesn't make it any easier for them to actually talk about them when they actually occur. And I mean, I've had a couple friends visit me, and my mother actually visit me in the last year where I live, and they have all wanted me to take them on a driving tour of the various of the locations that I write about in the book, because they want to sort of get a sense of the context. But the problem is that a lot of the places are like either private homes or businesses or remote locations, like in nature or in parks. And so it's kind of hard. We're talking about, we're talking about from one end to another, maybe 150 miles,
Right.
And so that's a little bit difficult to traverse, for, and just doing that. But no, people are people are hesitant. Well, and it's like a guy that I talked to, who I'm still in contact with, um, who was one of the principal witnesses, and still is kind of the archivist of experience, if you will, of the Pine Bush UFO, I guess you'd call it UFO, paranormal cluster that occurred in Pine Bush, New York, in the 90s. He was like one of the first witnesses, and he's had lots of experiences there. He still goes there on occasion, and just to see what is still going on. And he took me on kind of when I did the profile about Pine Bush, New York for the book, he took me around to all the places, the principal places where people had observed things. And he had various stories, but he said, he's had a lot of experiences. In fact, he wrote me just an email last week where there were, and some of these experiences have followed him home. Mm-hmm. So he occasionally will have poltergeist experiences in his house. They're periodic, but he was sharing with me some photographic evidence of some of the latest stuff. It's kind of mild as poltergeist stuff goes, but it's still present. I remember him talking to me, and he said, you can have all these experiences, but the fact is, like you said, the fact is that at the end of the day, you don't really know what's causing them. You don't know what it is. You can't fit it into the rest of your life. And so even if you go in search of it and you have lots of these experiences, at the end of the day, you still have to go to work. You still have to raise your kids. You still have to live your life. And sometimes it's easier to just sort of pack it away.
Yeah, compartmentalize.
Or because you can't, I mean, you've probably encountered people like this. We all know somebody who has become so obsessed with some aspect of this phenomena that it sort of drives them crazy, and it drives everybody else crazy too.
Right.
And especially with UFO stuff, there seems to be this obsessive quality that sometimes develops in some people surrounding those reports. I don't know what that is. I mean, at one time in my life, I had a little of that. That sense of, that Mulder sense that we'll figure this out,
yes.
whatever that is. But in the end, you don't.
Yeah, you just have more questions.
I mean, some people have their pet theories and they'll argue about those. But
right.
But the truth is that if you're honest about it, you don't know. You just don't know. And so you have to just drop it. I think that what your husband and you did was very, very normal, because it's like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, but to us, it just really shocked us. Again, another teachable moment where we were like, wow, how many things are we forgetting like that are never going to be brought back to us? We're never going to see it in a movie and go, oh my God.
Well, I think it's great that you actually saw the movie that occurred in. I mean, some people call that synchronicity, that you, at some point both of you happen to be in a place. I mean, what are the odds that you happen to be in a place where he saw the scene that he had seen before? I mean, that is kind of odd.
Yeah, but to me, it's just it was very revealing about this aspect of human experience, that if you have something extraordinary happen, you don't know how to fit it into your day-to-day life. So paranormal or not, if it doesn't go with the curtains, I mean, if it doesn't like fit into your day-to-day living, it's not relevant to you for some reason, or just you compartmentalize it, like you said, you hide it, it gets under the rug, and you might never ever see it again.
Right.
And one thing I wanted to add is there was several of my encounters. I don't want to get into them too much, but there were people with me who saw phenomenon such as triangular craft in the sky. Another time with my mother, she actually remembers something happening, but not a lot of detail. We saw pyramid craft coming out of what appeared to be a portal in the sky, and she said, "Oh my God, Jeffrey!" And it terrified her because it looked like something out of like Star Trek, but in your neighborhood sky. And and then another time, I was with a friend, and there was a pyramid craft parked over power lines, and a ball of light came out of it towards us. And he doesn't. I've asked these people before. My mom remembers something happened, but not details. But other people, friends that were there, they don't remember it. And I remember
Yeah.
it plain as day. And what I've found out is I think I don't know details, but I think there's something here that doesn't want us to remember it. Because when I was having a lot of UFO encounters, some kind of government agency came out and responded in a silent helicopter with no propellers on it, with like a cockpit set over my house, and a man in a military, like Air Force, whatever the hell, Top Gun, whatever, Maverick, yada, yada,
Mhm.
yada, waved at us mockingly, and it shot off. It was almost like there was so much UFO activity. As a friend said, that Jeffrey, you're attracting it here. And it was a time
Mm.
of a lot of reading of occult stuff and partying and drugs, all kinds of stuff. But a lot of these people who've had these experiences, they would acknowledge that they see it, and then I'd ask them years later, and it's like they've been mind wiped. Now, if you get into all the, I don't want to get into Skinwalker Ranch, but those shows, there's something happening that does not want them to get closer to the truth. There's a resistance. So I
Yeah.
believe I don't know exactly what it is or what to call it. I don't know, but there's
Yeah. Well,
something that's
that
that's messing with.
that leads me to recall another personal experience I had, and I, I don't, I don't know what this was, but again, didn't seem normal. Okay, so I was involved with a Hawaii Paracon for a couple of years, and I think it was our first Hawaii Paracon. So I think it was 2018, somewhere around there. And so before the event, like all the speakers got together at a local's house on the island of Oahu, and we had a kava ceremony, and it was just a sacred way to start the proceedings. It was a way, to introduce all the speakers to Hawaiian cosmology. And so we had this ceremony. It was wonderful, and then we left the guy's house. This was in Waianae. We left the guy's house, and we headed back to our family's house where we were staying. And so, okay, so my cousins, they have this convertible, and we're in this convertible, okay, in Oahu. It just sounds unbelievable, but it really happened, and I'm happy it did. But anyway, so if you can imagine, in the dead of night, like 1 a.m. in the morning, driving down this dark road in Waianae with like no, not a lot of street lights. Let's put it that way. And so we're unfamiliar with the area. We're driving back, and then suddenly we see this woman at the side of a road, at the side of the road, and she kind of looked like maybe she was a hippie or something. I don't know, like the kind of like um dress that she was wearing was like a summer dress, and she's she's standing there like perfectly still on the side of the road, and she's got like some kind of contorted pose, okay? And when I saw it, I laughed because it reminded me of like The Ring or something like that. Like when you see those ghosts in some movies, they have this herky jerky kind of movement or whatever. I mean, she wasn't moving, but she had that kind of like herky jerky stance, sort of. And so she was completely still. And we didn't see the front of her. We just saw we're coming up on the back of her. And so we went past her and we're both like, that was weird. And it didn't seem right. And I am usually a pain in the butt. And I wanted to turn around. And I couldn't make Scott do it, but I just let it go. I wasn't like a harpy like usual. Usual like keep harping on it until he turns around because I need to know if this was a person or what. And he didn't turn around, and I left it there, and that's unlike me. So again, it was kind of like something didn't want us to turn back. But then the next day at the Paracon, I was talking to the other speakers, and all I said to them was, "Did you see that woman?" And they immediately knew what I was talking about. That's all I said. Did you see that woman? Exact quote. And so they said, "Oh yeah." When we were coming in, we were like late to the ceremony. They were coming in at 10 o'clock. We were seeing her at 1 a.m. And they were seeing the front of her, and they said, she had like blood running down her arms. And I'm like, dude, why didn't you call 911 if that was the case? But what was interesting is that, so many hours between 10 and 1 that she would be out there, unless it's some kind of extreme miming competition. It seemed like it might have been a ghost. I don't know. But again, that's another thing that happened that, I'm kind of mad because I wanted to go back and just like check it out and just make sure, see if she was still there, see if she was actually a living person or but we didn't do it. And we tried to go back a few nights later, and of course she wasn't there. But again, that's another experience, and it just shows you how these things like slip between your fingers, and sometimes maybe they do that because they don't want you to engage more, and they have some kind of influence on you. But that was another incredible experience. And then we developed this idea for this YouTube channel that we've never acted on, but it's called Drunk or Ghost. And see, because in my purse I had this long back scratcher, and I didn't realize in time that I could have like telescoped it out and tapped her as we went by to see if she was real. So that's our idea for a YouTube channel. When you see someone weird, you see if you can poke them, and if there's any reaction, or if your poking device goes through them. So maybe one day we'll have the YouTube channel Drunk or Ghosts.
You said there was a Paracon near there. What is that, like a paranormal convention kind of thing?
Yes, we had a paranormal convention for a couple of
Was there?
years
Did
in
people do
on
cosplay
Oahu.
there? Could she have been a cosplay person or something?
Oh
Maybe
no, because
she wasn't. It's
this
weirder.
no, because this was not in the area where we had the Paracon, and it
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
that big. It's not like Comic-Con or something like that. I
Yeah,
mean, that
yeah.
was our first year, and it was a smaller venue, and where we had it is just probably 40 minutes away from where we had the ceremony. So and none of the participants were in the conference were invited to the ceremony. It was just the speakers. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it was not an area where you'd expect cosplay, but I like the idea of an extreme mime that's out there for hours.
An
Yeah.
extreme one. That's great.
There's real encounters of stuff like that for sure. I mean, there's
Yeah.
the trail cam stuff that some of it's real, and then that paranormal caught on camera. I know not all that's real, but there is some stuff on there that's pretty weird, and you're like, is that really real? Like that show Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Right.
But there's one experience I had with some guys. We were partying, driving around dirt roads in the country, and there was a big bright like star sitting on the ground, and it just rose up like kind of like a reverse falling star, but bigger, and just went straight up. But they would not stop. I wanted to stop. It's probably best that we didn't stop, or we would have got Travis Walton or something. But that I've interviewed him a long time ago. But that was it's just like a star, and it just floated right up. But they would not. I said it twice, and that was it. I was like, probably not a good idea to look at it, but
Yeah.
definitely.
But
But
that was unlike me to give up so easily. Let's just put it that way.
maybe it's for the best, though.
Yeah, maybe it's for the best.
411 next. With that.
Maybe she would have eaten our faces. I don't know.
Yeah. But what's your website for everybody?
Oh, it's AmericanGhostWalks.com.
All right. Well, Allison, we appreciate it so much. It's been a great show. Thank you, and good to talk to you. Thanks for letting us know about Shark Tank and your company. That's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it was really nice talking to you. And thank you for sharing your experiences. That's what I live for, hearing other people's experiences.
I
Well,
saw
good luck with everything.
I saw a haunted house movie last night, Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. It's on Shudder. That's the best found footage haunted house crap I've seen in a long time. Clowns, and it was nuts, but that's a good one. There's a series of them. It's called Hell House. But we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a good night, guys.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. We're starting over. We're in a different dimension. Welcome to another time loop. But no, I was up battling electrical problems all last night. So it was crazy, and I should have did a coyote chant. Sometimes I do that little DJ Conway chant, and I think I bring stuff on myself, but it probably would have happened anyway with or without that chant. But it's weird. Have you ever seen outlets that have buttons on them, and if you mess with one the wrong way, it like affects the whole other side of the house? It's like a PCFI outlet or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I know about those.
They suck. Like, what are those?
Yeah.
That's what this house has, and I hate them. This one got triggered outside and messed up, so a room on the other side of the house doesn't have power anymore. Like, this is crazy. But let's see. That movie was called Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. Apparently, it's like the fourth one, and the first one and the last one's like the best, and the other two are kind of but this one was really good. The clowns definitely knocked it off. Because I'm somebody that's seen so many movies like this, I'm just numb to it. This one actually had me kind of like, looking at every scene to make sure there wasn't a clown coming. But it was definitely eerie. But that was a good one. Did you do any Halloweening?
I didn't, because it was in the middle of the week and I had to get up and go to work the next day.
Yeah,
so I just, I mean,
I didn't really either.
I mean, sometimes in the past we've put out, we've done the trick or treat thing where we, put a pumpkin out, but the thing is that where we live, there aren't a lot of kids, and there's actually a curfew. So, it happens kind of early in the evening. It happens like at 5 or 6, and I'm just getting home from work then. So it's just too much of a hassle, and I didn't do anything. I mean, over the course of the month, I've read spooky stories and stuff, but the way I always do. But
Cool.
I didn't do anything specific for Halloween.
I haven't seen a trick or treater here in like I think 15 years or more. Like I just haven't seen one here. They don't exist. I think religion's kind of like ran them out of town, especially in this town, Graceville.
Right.
There's a
I
Bible
mean,
college.
I will say that the weather, has been very Halloweeny, like, all we're in the full color now here in the Hudson Valley, and it gets warm. It can be kind of warm during the day, but it gets really, really cold. We had our first frosts over the last couple nights. So, but the temperature drop between the daytime and the nighttime can be 40 degrees. And so what it does is it causes this weird curling fog everywhere, that kind of rolls out of the river and just kind of, and so, it's been very atmospheric. I'll put it, it's been, it looks creepy.
Yeah, I had a pizza and I've been watching horror movies. That seems like what I do, even if it's not Halloween. But there's one I saw called When Evil Lurks. It's from Argentina.
Yeah.
It's like has these amazing reviews, but it was really good, but it was a little too much on the gore, like zombies and exorcisms, and man, it's one of Guillermo del Toro's friends, but this guy's went on the dark side. Like it was crazy, like gory, over the top. So it's not one I'd watch again. But I'm glad I saw it once. I was surprised it has like 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. Like usually they tear horror movies apart, but like a lot of old stuff. I saw Tales from the Crypt from like 1972 or four. Like they did an old one, and I'd never seen it, from EC Comics. And there's a Vault of Horror that's old too, and it's who was in it? Christopher. God, I don't fit. Not Christopher Lee. No, I'm forgetting the guy's name. It's one of those dudes. But Peter
Mm-hmm.
Cushing, yeah. And those are really good and old. Definitely the 70s Crypt Keeper was a little weird, but but it was still worth the watch. What kind of spooky stories have you been reading?
Oh, well, I've been listening to a collection of stories that Michael Hacker actually told us about. Let me see here. What is this collection called? I've got it here. Because I could get it on Audible, so I can just sort of listen to it,
Yeah.
And so that's part of what I've been doing, is listening to it. And let's see what it's called here.
I remember him saying it, but I don't remember the name.
Yeah, it's called. Oh, where is it? Come on. Oh, come on. Where are you?
That's so.
I'm looking. Oh, it's called Weird and Other Derelictions by Adam L.G. Neville. And what's strange about these stories is that these stories have no plot exactly. What they are a series of it's like, basically what it is that they are very elaborate, detailed descriptions of scenes. Like, say, if you were to come upon a scene, you know what I mean? Come upon something, and they're very detailed descriptions of what you see. But so as the descriptions are being given you, you develop narratives in your mind about what must have happened.
Huh.
But in and of itself, it's kind of like, it's almost like forensic stuff, where, in CSI stuff, you'll have a murder scene, and then the whole story that evolves over the course of the show is what the various types of evidence reveal. You know what I mean? What they got off what they got off of this piece of that or this piece of that. But it's sort of like that, except what it's doing is it's going into elaborate descriptions of, and over time, and what happens is this kind of layering of the details, and over time you'll start, as you listen to it, you'll start to create a narrative in your mind about what must have happened. But then it just ends. It doesn't there's not like a narrative that takes you somewhere. It's like it inspires your own mind to create a narrative about what is being described. It's kind of cool, and it's very creepy because some of the scenes that are described are horrific, or very mysterious. They're just odd, kind of like what Allison was saying, where the what's being described doesn't really make any sense exactly. It's all distorted and weird, and but very detailed, like down to smells and textures and lighting, and it's very strange. Like it's not a story, but one of the vignettes is it describes a scene where a group of people in tents have encountered something that, and it has something to do with human sacrifice, but encountered something that that apparently either reached into their tents and grabbed them out or caused them to run away. But like there's these bloody lumps it's just bizarre. but I'll listen to it when I'm like cooking or doing dishes.
I'm familiar with him. There's a movie they made called The Ritual that was on Netflix, and it's really good. It's like a horror Norse situation. It's from his. I know it's from his book. I have some of his books around here, but I'd have to dig for them. I got them. Just people sent them to me, I guess.
Yeah,
but sounds good. Sounds good though. He's on my Facebook.
I don't know that I would actually sit and read him, but to have him read to you is more effective for me because of how visual all of his stuff is. It's very visual and very detailed. So that's part of what I've been reading. I've also been reading. I had this really odd experience actually last week, which I'm still trying to figure out why it happened. I have a bookshelf over here that you can't see that's off screen.
Yeah.
And on the end of the bookshelf is Whitley Strieber's book Transformation. The blue one with the blue alien face on it, or the white alien face on it.
Yeah, I have it, I think.
Yeah, and it's on the end, but it's on the end of the top part of the bookshelf in such a way that it can't really fall off. You know what I mean? It's kind of wedged in. Well, last weekend, there were several weird things that happened, like several weird electrical things that happened that then resolved themselves. But at the beginning of all of these, I was downstairs with Alan and we were talking about something else. We were just doing something, and I heard this thump, this really loud bang upstairs, like I couldn't tell whether it was in his room or my room. And it startled me, but then, we were right in the middle of what we were doing, and the noise didn't continue. So I didn't think anything of it. So I came upstairs later and came in my room, and that book had fallen out of the shelf. Not off the shelf. It had to have fallen out, sort of out like this. And it was on the floor. I stumbled on it, and I was like, what the hell is this book doing here? So I knew that that was the source of the noise, So, but none of the other, see, the way that it fell, other books should have fallen off too because of how they're wedged up there, but nothing else was moved, just that book. And like I said, it couldn't have just fallen off. It had to have sort of flung itself off. So I'm like, am I supposed to read this book? What the hell is it about? you know, who's taking this book out of my bookshelf and dropping it on the floor?
Yeah, have you read it before? Or
yeah, I've read it several times, and in fact, it's. Hold on for a second. I'll show you.
I know I've read the main communion books, but other than that, I'm behind on several.
Well, it's okay because his books are kind of odd, but this is the book, if I remember right. Yeah, this is the book that has in it. That translate. You know who Betty, Andreas, and Luca was, right?
Yeah, I've definitely heard of the name
of the Andreasen affair. This is the book that has in it the translation of something that Betty Andreas and Lucas said when she was under hypnosis, when Ray Fowler was investigating her case, and they were trying to get some get her memories, you know what I mean? And so she was under hypnosis. She was remembering her abduction, and she started talking in these weird syllables. And because she had a Pentecostal background, it was originally assumed that she was just speaking in, it was glossolalia, like they do in Pentecostal, congregations, that it was her speaking in tongues. But and so it got recorded. But then a linguist named Leonard Keane discovered that, after a series of people listened to these syllables, realized that she might be actually speaking a language. And so they had a linguist listen to it, a specialist listen to it. And basically they concluded that she was speaking a dialect, an old dialect, I think, of Irish Gaelic. And that these phrases could be translated. In other words, they were able to render a translation that made sense from these syllables. And this is what the translation is. The living descendants of the northern peoples are groping in universal darkness. Their mother mourns. A dark occasion forebodes when weakness in high places will revive a high cost of living, an interval of mistakes in high places, an interval fit for distressing events.
Wow.
And I mean, when I read that, I remember when I first read that, it freaked me out. I was like, oh my God. And I've never forgotten it. And for some reason, a few weeks ago, it came back to me. I think it was probably because of what's going on in the world right now. And then this book flung itself out on my floor. So maybe I'm supposed to read it, reread it again. I don't know.
It definitely just keeps getting crazier. Like all the Israel stuff, just nuttier and nuttier.
Yeah.
Seeing all these other countries attacking, like what, Yemen or Lebanon or something that's attacking them now or something.
Yeah, well, no, it's not that. It's the Houthis in Yemen. It's not, and it's not the countries. It's specific groups within the countries. It's not the whole countries. And it's very complicated. It's not, my problem with all of that is that I know way too much about the total history of all of it to even be able to begin to discuss it with people. There's no way that you can make it simple. And
Yeah.
and unfortunately, our media just tries to make it simple for people, and that plays right into propaganda. And it's just not like that. So and it's a desperately sad, um, horrific situation, and I don't know. But
I know.
anyway,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. I've been eyeballing the right wing commentary about it at a
oh yeah,
particular place, and it's very
yes,
confusing because a lot of them still love Trumplegooch, but you would think Christian right wing Trumplegooch, I love Israel, but what I'm seeing, like I see that, but there's a lot of them that like hate Israel and Jew this and Jew that, like, but they seem like they're right wing Trumplegooches. I'm just confused. I don't know. I think
well,
there's nationalism maybe or something. I don't know.
well,
I'm so
there's
confused.
well, and there's a confusion between people confuse Jews.
And Khazarian and all that crap.
Yeah, they confuse Jews or Judaism with Israel, because most people in Israel are Jews, but being an Israeli, and Israeli is a nationality. There are Arab Israelis. There are Palestinian Israelis. They mostly live in occupied East Jerusalem, but they are Israelis. They are Israeli citizens. And so, being an Israeli is a nationality. It is not the same uh, as being Jewish. Being Jewish, can mean a lot of different things, um,
Yeah.
and it's certainly not equivalent to the, religion of Judaism, because like 80% of Israelis who are Jewish who live in Israel are not religious at all. They're secular. So, like Netanyahu. I mean, that's the thing that freaked me out about this last, speech that Netanyahu gave last last weekend, when he invoked Amalek. And I mean, you probably don't even know what Amalek is, but
No.
that's a very symbolic. In the Hebrew Bible, Amalek appears, the people of Amalek appear several times in the Torah, and I think in some of the histories. And we don't know who Amalek were. I mean, we don't know, like what ancient people they were, but according to the biblical texts, they were an ancient enemy, and they hated the Israelites, and they're sort of like the nemesis, if you will, of the Israelites. And so at one point, I think it's in like the book. I can't remember if it's First or Second Samuel, but at some point in the Bible, there's a passage that says something to the effect of, Amalek, will always be your enemy, will always be cursed. You are to kill them to the last man, woman, child, and beast. You know, you know, and so they're like a traditional enemy. And so through the course of Jewish history, occasionally Amalek would sort of become a symbol of whatever, whatever great opposition Jews were facing. Well, he basically called the Palestinians Amalek last last weekend. And that's something that only Jews will get. That's something that only Jews or scholars will understand, like what he's saying. It's code, but he's basically saying that the Palestinians are Amalek, therefore we need to do to them what the scripture has enjoined us to do. But it's almost like calling jihad. But the problem is that he's not a religious man, and yet he's using a biblical text to justify something that he wants to do in order to give a reason for what he wants to do. And it's just like, wow. It's like, if he's gonna invoke Amalek, then he's not going to listen to anything America tells him to try to mediate or moderate his behavior. So it's
It's
It
creepy.
it scared the crap out of me when I heard him say that. It was like, oh my God, do you have any idea
There's
what could
yeah.
you be bringing on to yourself? This doesn't make Israel safer. It's
It's definitely scary, but I've had some guy that's been stalking me, and I don't know who it is, but he goes by.
stalking you,
I have a
stalking
stalk.
you.
I have a stalker, and he's at the comments at that particular place that I'm talking about, and he's called Marines Fighting Tyranny. And for some reason, he thinks some guy named Monkey Works that's on YouTube that does all these flight path weird shows about planes and stuff and me. He says we're Israeli agents, and he's threatened my life on that site. And they don't do nothing about it. They delete the comment. They should ban him. But like I'm a redneck from Georgia. Like if they're hiring, give me a call, Larry David. I might take the job. But I'm James Bond 007 Israeli agent. Like on my nose, maybe. I don't know. It's baffling. I don't understand it. He's crazy, whoever this guy is. But just I've just seen a lot of weirdness with it all lately. It's just confusing to me. That's why I don't really talk about it a lot.
Yeah. Well, I've had stalkers before, and it's pretty
Yeah,
scary. I mean, I've been stalked twice, and it's really
it's
really
dangerous.
it's terrifying. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
one of the people. I mean, I actually wrote about it in one of my blogs on my website because it was so weird. It was one of those experiences that especially how the two stalkers kind of overlapped. It was like they overlapped in such a way that I actually, and I still wonder this, I actually wondered if somehow they didn't find each other online. I mean, that's how weird some of the experiences were. Some of the experiences were as weird as anything paranormal that I've ever experienced. And so I don't talk about it very often because I'm almost afraid of bringing it back in some way. You know what I mean? But I mean,
yeah,
I lived in fear of this one person for years because I had no idea what they might do. You know, and it's been part of the reason why I've been sort of cautious in being more public because I don't know what this person will do. Um, uh, you know, um,
you gotta be careful. I know lately, just seeing like headlines, it's just so many people being found dead, like weird serial killer stuff. Like every day, there's a new weird headline about some girl or whatever. There's even some lady poisoning dudes. Like there's like I think there's just like a serious rise. People are stressed out, so the numbers of that kind of stuff goes up. I guess how many are at large at one time and all that stuff. Definitely seems like it's a lot creepier, but I guess it's always in the news. I've just noticed it more lately, like weird
yeah,
stories of them finding bodies and all this different stuff, and it's just crazy.
yeah, yeah. I know. I'm very. I try to be very cautious. So
Yeah, definitely, and it's just I know. And then the thing that just happened with the main thing, that was just freaking nuts. That guy, they said that he got that they got warnings about him from other people that he was going to shoot something up. It's just crazy to think how someone can snap like that. Says he has audio hallucinations. Like I guess you hears audio stuff, which I don't know. It's just nuts. There's a lot of people, and then took his own life and all that stuff. But audio hallucinations. I mean, I guess. I mean, obviously there's mental illness that can cause that, but it makes me think about weird electronic stuff, and certain thoughts in your brain or whatever. But I mean, audio hallucinations. That's like I watched Psycho 2 recently, and I think that's what Norman Bates was kind of going through. Like he'd pick up the phone and be his mother, but it was actually somebody else, but he thought it was his mother. He was like having audio hallucinations. That's got to be scary. If you're hearing audio, like that's
yeah,
deceptive or whatever. Uh, but luckily they found that dude, but that was just my buddy lives in Maine, and they sent out like warnings on the phone and stuff, and like weird Amber Alert kind of public signals or whatever, warning them that the guy was at large and all that. It's definitely nuts. As far as I guess the big problem with the Israel thing is just Iran. They seem to be instigating this and sending drones to other bases and the U.S. bases and hurting our soldiers and stuff. It seems like they're behind a lot of it. And then you got to wonder if China and Russia and all them are behind a lot of it as well, or Russia at least. They're behind everything, it seems like.
Well, they certainly like to be provocateurs. That's true. They certainly do like that. It's, the thing about Hamas is, Hamas has been, it's not just Hamas, by the way, that is there in Gaza. There are several other groups that are there, including Islamic Jihad. It's not clear, even though Hamas obviously took credit for it, even Hamas operatives said that, it wasn't like, they don't even know where all of the captives are. Because basically you had Hamas and Islamic Jihad and a couple of other groups, and then just like a whole bunch of regular people who had been like kind of hanging out with them, practicing. They all participated in this, and so in the initial raid on October 7th, and so various people took folks, and so Hamas doesn't even know exactly where everybody is. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, and so this is what I do, is that I listen to our mainstream news, which is largely useless in many ways, and then I listen to other news sources from across the world talking about it. I listen to news coming out of Israel. I also have contacts in Israel from earlier in my life. I know Israelis that are on the ground who talk to me. I know people. I don't know any Palestinians on the ground, but I do know some Lebanese people who are living in Lebanon who give me reports. I know some people in Egypt who give me reports. I listen to Al Jazeera. I listen to Middle Eastern Eye. I listen to Al Arabiya. So I listen to like lots of different sources throughout the course of the day. And what's really interesting to me is the level of propaganda that is coming out of a lot of sources, but there's also some really good reporting that is coming out of some of the Middle Eastern and Indian sources, like from India, that our news media just doesn't pick up on at all. And out of Israel, that, like if you were to listen to our media, just our media, you would think that, most, Israelis are absolutely unified in support of what Netanyahu is doing, and they're not. It's like, depending on where you are in the country, 1 out of every 5 to 1 out of every 4 Israelis really are unhappy with what Netanyahu is doing and don't think that this is going to make it any safer for Israel. Particularly since he seems to be there doesn't seem, at least to them, that he's doing a lot to try to actually actively get the hostages back. You know what I mean? And there's actually a lot of dissent that is going on in Jerusalem, Israeli dissent that is going on in Jerusalem, and it's just not being covered by our media. So this idea that if you have any problems with the way in which the IDF is operating, if you have problems and you're automatically anti-Semitic, it's like, well, if that's the case, technically being anti-Semitic would mean you'd be anti-Arab too. But if that were the case, then that would mean that these Israelis who are having problems with the way in which this is happening, that they would be being anti-Semitic. And that's kind of nuts, It's like, no, it's too complicated. It's way more complicated than this, than the simple crap that we're being told. So but it's also really dangerous because, as you say, other interests are being drawn into this, um, and it's I think it was yesterday that Iran, Russia, and China issued some kind of a joint statement that was kind of warning us, the United States, about that what we need to, what we should be doing to try to curtail what Israel is doing. And to me, it's like, I don't think Israel's going to listen. Israel's in a rage. I mean, the IDF is in a rage. And they're just going to do what they do. They're not paying any attention at all to what we say.
Yeah,
So
definitely just seems like it's escalating.
so it's I think it's more dangerous than people know, really. So a lot of things could be derailed. So
And I'm so tired of that little ugly little Gollum Putin face.
I know.
They say he's dead.
He's not
And
dead. He's not dead. Although he might have some health issues, but I
have
mean,
clones.
yeah,
Has clones.
I don't think he's
I'm
dead.
so
Now.
tired of his little scrunchy little ugly face.
Yeah, I am too. His little asshole.
Nikki, just do it. Just get it over with. Shut up. If you're gonna do it. Gosh. Just his face is annoying. I was talking about something Jay left me alone, and I started ranting about
Oh, you mean last week?
yeah. And I started ranting about polarities. I like the left versus right thing, and just like the Civil War, just these different like energies people take sides on, and how there was something I saw somewhere by that Dr. Courtney Brown guy, and I've read one of his books, and it's a weird book. It's called Cosmic Explorers, and this dude, like, I don't know if he still does because I just don't keep up with him, but he worked at Emory University and put out this weird remote viewing book, and basically saying there's reptilian bases and stuff. And he's been on Coast to Coast a million times, but something he said about polarities have destroyed ancient civilization. Like
Polarities?
space, like these just, two sides, polarities, like two different
Oh,
sides, people
right.
fighting over crap, left versus right, Republican versus tribalism.
Tribalism, right?
Yeah, and it's just stupid. And when you die, is anybody going to really care what if you're left or right or Republican or Democrat? Or nobody cares. I don't think that force is going to be, oh, you were a Democrat, you were a Republican, that's great, come on in. My fear is all of heaven is Republican only, and that's why the devil left. Hopefully that's not true. But fears. But I talked to a friend of mine yesterday, and he hasn't voted in years, and he's angry and voting for Trumpelgooch
Oh my
just
God.
because he's scary, and people are afraid of him, and just Biden's a wimp, and da da da. And I was like, and there's probably like millions and a billion other ones just like you that's saying the same thing. So,
Like, oh my God. I really think that if Trump is elected again, I think I will have to leave the country. I think that will be it. I will have to leave because I can't live in another time period where I have to listen to his voice and have to deal with his garbage. I can't. It was bad for my health.
well, the only plus of it could be so sold out to Russia and them, it would maybe thwart a nuclear holocaust, but that's about the only plus. but
Yeah.
he's still just, oh
He's
God. The worst part is Biden's running again, right? I mean, that's who we're putting against him. That's what scares me.
Right, exactly. It's like I don't think anybody wants that rematch. It's like we got to. It's like neither party
Ugh.
can come up with anybody better than these two geezers.
Exactly.
Like, oh God.
Scary. I know that Kennedy dude's running. I
Oh,
know.
he's a wackadoodle, I tell you.
I don't even know what side he's on. Which right? I guess I don't know.
Well, he's a Democrat, so he's running as a Democrat, but or an independent. I think he's running it as an independent. But I mean, he's kind of libertarian, but he's a conspiracy theorist, libertarian, anti-vaxxer, wacko.
I saw something about. I know that Dr. Cornell West was running. I thought that'd be amusing, but I haven't really kept up. I haven't seen anything else about that. But I saw something. Cornell West.
Oh
Get
yeah,
him on Bill Maher.
yeah. I mean, he's
He's articulate.
he's articulate, but he would never be elected.
It's
So
like Malcolm X and Black Panther or something.
yeah, he would never be elected.
I'm worried Trump's going to win. It's not looking good. they and the fact that he's going through all this crap, and he was like, "Look what they do to him. Look what they're doing to the man." So I'm like, "Oh my God!"
It's like he did those things.
And I was dipping into the redneck vibration. I can do that. I'm from Georgia. So
yeah, you can dip into the redneck.
I don't like it. Do psychedelics. No. But it's definitely crazy.
Oh man, it is crazy. It's amazing.
Crazy.
It's like, will somebody just turn it off?
It's just like uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it's more uncomfortable.
Yeah, it does.
It's just something I don't know. Just think there's so many things going on, like cosmic energies, and you got all kinds of interference from all their whatever crap they have, technology, and just so much. It's just too much. I was that Matthew Perry guy that died. It was sad. He had a cool Batman collection.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, the context of how he died. It's like, I guess he died and his aide found him or something. It's kind of odd.
There's been a lot of weird celebrity deaths. I don't try to go too cuckoo, but sometimes I wonder if like an enemy foreign nation like really can like do something with a satellite and kill people. Like there's weird ones. Like what was that? Bob Saget one that was kind of weird. You like
right.
There's been some weird ones that make you go, I hope I'm not on that list. Sometimes it feels like it, but you don't want to go too cuckoo.
You're probably not a big enough celebrity.
Yeah, there was one show I did that scared me and made me wonder if it did, but it's probably just me being paranoid. But it was Robert Duncan. He's former CIA, and he made some kind of technology, and they did steal it from him to use it for like gang stalking and weird stuff. I think Beazle was there for that one. That was one of those like, maybe I shouldn't have did that one.
Maybe that one was a little too deep.
Yeah, that one. You're on the naughty list now. Heart attack list. But yeah, there's been some bad ones. I'm trying to think. There's just been so many. That guy Ray Winston. He was in Black Sails. I think he was British. He was just in that Ahsoka Star Wars. Ray Winston. He died, and that was kind of sad. He was an actor. He was in a pirate. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but it was weird watching him in that Star Wars show. Because he didn't die in the end of first season, and he's dead. So what are they going to hologram him?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
There is a funny pirate show that's on HBO called Our Flag Means Death. And only like 30 minutes a piece, but it's kind of dark. They had a Balky on it. What's that guy's name? Pierce Bronson. It's Perfect Strangers. He was like a pirate.
Oh, okay. Brosnan?
Yeah. He was a pirate in it for only one episode. That's all I'm going to say. But it's a pirate show. You don't get many pirate shows, but it's funny too. So I've been watching that. It's weird because the British white guy and Blackbeard are gay, so that's kind of awkward. They made Blackbeard gay. I'm not sure why, but it's still good. But there's some man munching in it.
Man, like,
Some Baron. But no, that Tahiti dude, that New Zealand dude, is Blackbeard. There's some bear on bear.
you're so funny.
Yeah, that's right.
So where are all your beasts? Where are all your pets and beasts?
Oh, the dogs are over there asleep, and then the pig's over there. The cat, she's right there. They're here. They're just being quiet
Quiet. Okay.
in the quiet. It's darker over there because of that electrical problem. So I have to turn the light towards them once we're done with the show.
So how big is the pig now?
Pretty big. She's gotten big. She's
So
about
oh my God. So like does she go out to use the bathroom or does she
yeah. She totally is house trained. She doesn't ever uses it in the house ever. She never does poop, never pees ever in the house. So she goes out and throw her food out there and she'll eat. And I give her food in her kennel, but she can't. She can't run wild. She has to be in the. She has two big kennels connected and a lot of room and blankets. But if you just let her, she'll just mess up everything looking for food and
right?
rummage
Well,
it.
well, that's what they do. They rip stuff
Yeah,
out.
it's a mess. If she unfortunately she has to, but we let her go in the yard for as long as she wants. Have to be careful because there's a lot of coyotes around here, so I don't try to leave her out there for too long.
And everybody likes pork.
Yeah, yeah, and the coyotes, there's a tribe of them for sure. I've heard them, and I'm surprised they don't try to jump the fence. They never have that I know of. It's just there's a lot of woods around the fence. It's hard to kind of get through. So I'm sure they could though if they really wanted to, but I don't leave her out there that long. Oh yeah, was it Steven Snyder next week?
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah.
I was
What
trying to
what book is this?
the art, the secret history of Psywar, conspiratainment, and the shattering of reality. I think I sent it to
You
you.
know, I think I know. I just needed to
Okay.
be reminded. Oh yeah, here it is. It
I had
is.
I had to shorten his title because
Yeah,
it's like
the secret history of Psywar, conspiratainment, and the shattering of reality.
he made up his own word there.
Yeah, and part one. This is part one.
Yeah, it looks good. He's a trip, so that's going to be interesting. The Soviet Aquarian Age and the No Spear. Is that New Spear? The Dark Side of Camelot. Pandora's Box. Will the real UFO working group please stand up? This might get us on a list. There's a joint intelligence committee.
Yeah, well,
Joint special operations.
yeah.
What are we getting into here?
Well, maybe it's another one of those dangerous shows.
Yeah. He did like what was it, Minnesota or something like in that last show, or it was I think it was. I know we talked about that Wisconsin Death Trip. I'd have to look it up, but I'm trying to remember what we talked about the last show we did with him. It's been so long and my memory's terrible. But it was very good. I do know that. He's got some good stuff for sure. And haven't heard from Stephanie about that finale, so I don't know if that's happening. It may not be.
Now, remind me, what is that now?
Some lady with occult food that she was going to write, but I never
Oh,
heard back.
yeah. That's right.
I never heard anything back, so it may not have transpired. So I gotta fill. That's the last date I gotta fill is December 15th, and that's with you. Uh, who's coming up? Let me see. Steven Snyder, and then RK. Wait,
Here, I got it.
RK Latch. A bunch of those weird West Arthurs. They're all pretty interesting. They write in movies and books and weirdness. And then I'm trying to get something for the final enchilada.
Now, Weil E. Young.
Yeah.
Weil E. Young.
And then Michelle Garza, I just added her. She's an author. And where is and then get lost. RK Latch is after Steven. Michelle Garza is the first, and then Wally Young. And then I'm still working on the 15th. I was trying to see if you can video file. Let's see if it lets me do that little show, and I'll show my little monkey thing. I don't know if it'll let me. Hold on.
Show your little monkey thing.
Yeah, hold on. It may let us. Yeah, hold on.
Cowboy hat and likes
Just
to wear.
a second.
Not impressed.
Calling an archangel.
Who deal in all.
Oh, for some reason the numbers are hard to move around.
It's
There we go.
exhausting. Just saying. I'm not kidding you. It's like going to a debrief, you know?
Yeah, you guys had a really good response. You had a lot of people there, which was great.
Squatch. We love JoJo.
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 Oh, Joe.
Is it Joe? I didn't even.
That's Joe.
Yes.
That's Joe.
Thanks,
Love
Joe.
Jojo.
Looks like Planet
here.
Happy Halloween.
Yes.
the Squatch. We love JoJo.
Oh my gosh.
So we were talking about weird stuff, and people want us to talk about all that.
That's pretty cool.
That was my thrill, my only thrill for Halloween besides a pizza. But it was funny because they didn't know who it was at first.
Yeah, it is funny.
I made sure not to show the mask. I was very skillful and made my camera because I knew if they saw that, it was on. So me, Shaka Squatch, me love JoJo.
Shaka.
Like Shaka from Land of the Lost.
I know exactly who you're talking
I
about.
don't even know if he's seen it. Like, I don't even know if he knows that even happened, which not that big of a deal. It was just something stupid, but I hope he doesn't know. So he has secret Shaka Squatch, and he doesn't even know. It's been on the network, professing his love.
Professing his love.
But that mask, when I was about to have a panic attack under it, it was I could barely breathe.
Hot and claustrophobic.
So we got 4 minutes. You haven't been watching anything?
You know, I've been watching some documentaries, but I haven't been watching. Yeah, I haven't been watching. I've been watching old Star Trek. You know, trying to catch up with some stuff, but I haven't been watching any. I haven't watched any paranormal stuff, any horror stuff. I just haven't. I hardly have time in the evenings during the week to really do much. And, you know, with commuting, I spend like 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, either at work, coming from work, or going to work. So, you know, I just don't have time. So, you know, what I do is I spend time with the chickens.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
There's one thing I saw on that HBO Max. It's this Navajo police show, like 3 episodes of like their real like police kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like it's not paranormal, I don't think, but they may have something like that. But it's mostly like real. I want to watch that. That sounds pretty interesting. It's just like kind of like I don't think it's as it looks more classy than Cops and stuff. but it's basically their training and all that stuff. It seems pretty interesting. I might check that out. There's one weird cartoon on there that I need to check out. I saw the first episode. They're only like 20 minutes, but it's called Scavenger's Reign, and it's a new animation on HBO Max, whatever the hell they call it. But anyway, it's cool because the animation's like really weird. It reminds me of the heavy metal kind of movies and stuff. Like a weird light, like a lot of creatures and alien organisms and plants and just crazy. And it kind of reminds me of the heavy metal animation movie.
Uh-huh.
So that's pretty cool. But Scavenger's Reign. Looks like some good stonerware. But
Stonerware.
that's right. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. United Public Radio, 107.7 FM New Orleans. Thanks to Allison. Thanks to Wham. Thanks to Super JoJo. And thanks to Shaka Squatch.
Shaka Squatch.
Land of the Lost. Little Shaka. I used to watch that in my pajamas. They made a movie of it. It sucked, but Will Ferrell don't know what the hell they were thinking, but it's funny, but not that great. But all right, everybody. I'm exhausted. I need some food. All right, everybody, have a good night. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.